Let's start out at number 10 with HELLBOY. Now, technically we don't really know how he's created or got his powers, but he was summoned through a portal from Hell to Earth by a cult attempting to tip the scales during World War II in their favor, so, you know, we can assume. Thankfully, their enemies, the Allies, found the red baby before they could get their hands on him and taint him into their evil ways. The Allies decide to call him HELLBOY, and then the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, BPRD, is born. One Professor Trevor Bruttenholm spearheads the organization and takes HELLBOY under his wing, sort of like a son. He's definitely a father figure to him. On account of being from Hell, he has a few demonic advantages. He has the right hand of doom, this huge stone hand that's great for smashing things. He can lift really heavy things, like over a ton. He heals very quickly, and he's exceptionally hard to hurt. Number 9 is Sebastian Faust. He's the son of an evil magician, Felix Faust, who appeared in Justice League of America in 1962. He taught his son how to harness the power of demons. Later on, his father put his son's soul in a bargain with a demon. This demon's name was Nebiros. Sebastian thought it was a mystic rite. Then the demon tricked Felix and gave the power to initiate magic to Sebastian instead, so it worked out for him. And then from then on, he's able to tap into soul magic. As you might imagine, he ends up with quite a lot of powers. He can project magical energy as well as energy shields, he has healing, he can morph, teleport between shadows, tap into people's souls to gain their power, or feed mana from them for casting spells. He can possess people, cast illusions, I mean the list goes on and on and on. There's lots of episodes. At number 8, we have another that is the handiwork of Nebiros. His name is the Blue Devil. He started out life as a stuntman named Daniel Cassidy, who was working for the movies and was working on a movie called, you guessed it, Blue Devil. So in it, he wears this exoskeleton suit for the character. It has built-in pyrotechnic devices, and it's really cool. He's a top-notch guy, super smart. But then a real devil, the one who gave us his powers, is freed from a temple nearby to where the set is that they're filming. And he gets a hit of demonic energy, a big blast of it, and then it magically bonds the suit to him. But on account of this, he ends up with superhuman strength, durability, agility, healing. The suit basically like repairs itself if he's injured. He gets enhanced hearing, infrared night vision, stronger senses. He has a trident also that he's able to summon and control it through the suit remotely. It even shoots fire. So he ends up with a lot of really cool powers on account of this suit. At number 7, we have HELLSTORM, son of Satan. I mean, the full name really does kind of say it all, but let's get into it. So Satan, or the Hell Lord, decides he has wanted a child with a human being for too long. So he's gonna go get some of that human lovin' to gain more power, of course. I mean, as you do as Satan, you want that power. So he goes to, of all places, Massachusetts with a secret identity. He marries a woman, has 3 kids, kind of has the whole thing. And then one of them is Damon, the son of Satan. After his mother dies, he finds out his true birth. Although the pentagram on his chest, I guess, wasn't enough of an idea. He meets up with Dad/Satan, and Satan tries to get him to come to serve him in hell. However, once Satan sends him back to Earth, he decides he's going to fight against his father instead. What a nice guy. But instead of doing it a smart way, you know, like, I don't know, training, or have a training montage, learning his stuff, he just tries to fight him right away and fails. However, he happens to grab some really sweet things on the way out, specifically a satanic trident and a demon horse-drawn chariot before returning to Earth, so now at least he has a sweet ride throughout the issues. He also discovers his dark soul powers inherited from good old Dad. This gives him superhuman strength and the ability to project soul fire from his trident. He can sense the presence of the supernatural and can cast spells to teleport between dimensions as well. At number 6, we have John Constantine. It might be a slight stretch of the title, but hear me out, I have my reasons. He gets his powers from the supernatural, and at one point John's body contained demon blood, which is what allows him to channel magic and cast spells without actually facing the costs of using magic. I think it counts. His origin story is a little all over the place. He experimented with magic at a young age before he realized there was a price to use it. He did a really powerful spell to try to make him a super powerful magician, but it ends up killing his family. So then he kind of dabbles in music off and on with different girlfriends here and there. Sometimes bad things happen. He becomes a rock star. He falls in love with this woman named Veronica, and then he loses her due to a spell gone wrong, and then that turns his focus purely to magic, I guess to try to understand it better or to try to fight the forces of it. Constantine rarely uses actual magic though, unless he really has to, especially in combat. But he can perform many different acts. To name a few, he can summon demons, he can travel interdimensionally, he can do exorcisms, necromancy, energy projection, like solar energy so that you can like use it against vampires. Blade would love this. He can make illusions to trick people, he can make protective circles, teleportations, telekinesis, invisibility, mind control, etc, etc, etc. It really depends sort of what writer was writing about him at the time. My personal favorite tidbit though is this moon blade. So it's a magical weapon and it changes shape depending on the phase that the moon is in, and when someone is killed by it, their spirit goes into it and then Constantine can kind of call on them. Pretty cool. At number 5 we have Magik. Now Magik was born a mutant already. Colossus is her brother. However, she was kidnapped by Belasco, who was an evil sorcerer who worked with the elder gods to be granted immortality and all this immense mystical power, which is why he has this super demonic appearance. That's why I think this works. He brings her to Limbo, where he turns part of her soul into a bloodstone, and one of his servants is like constantly beating her and being super mean to her. But his spells give her considerable magic power, like her teleportation discs. Throughout her lifetime, she becomes much more powerful and sort of takes over the place. She ends up being able to have access to both black and white magic. She magically used her life force and eldritch energy to make a soul sword, which can disrupt magic spells. She also has mystical armor, which appears around her, called eldritch armor. It adds horns, a tail, hoofs, giving her a really demonic appearance. She also has an impenetrable sonic shield that telepaths can't get through, and many other powers that have been seen over the years. At number 4 we have HELLCAT, who's actually going to tie into one of the ones we already talked about. Patricia, or Patsy Walker, has a normal-ish upbringing, but later on in life meets up with Beast, who is now a member of the Avengers and agrees to help her become a superhero. So during a ride-along mission that she's on, they come across a catsuit worn by Tigra, and she puts on the costume and assumes the identity of HELLCAT. Now I know what you're thinking, what does this have to do with demons? Hang tight, number 7, here it comes, here it comes. So HELLSTORM, son of Satan, they end up meeting and they get married. Eventually though, she's driven mad and she commits, and then her soul gets stuck in hell. There, she has to go through all these gladiator-like combat scenarios, and she also learns to develop her psychic powers, and then HELLSTORM eventually tricks Hawkeye into returning her spirit to Earth, and she gets to keep all that demonic power and new skills that she learned while she was there. She has natural athletic abilities already, but develops others through training with different characters like Moondragon, who gives her more martial arts training and enhances her sonic potential, allowing her to use telekinesis abilities and resist mental control, for instance. She gains magical resistance, enhanced strength, speed, agility, endurance, reflexes. I feel like so many superheroes have that, but that's why they're superheroes. She can also summon her costume at will, and it wields retractable claws and grappling hooks from her wrist, so she has a good setup. At number 3 we have Blade, my personal favorite vampire hunter. Ooh, okay, torn with Buffy, but you know. For this one, we're calling vampires demons, which I think isn't really a stretch. As you may already know, Blade's mother was bitten while she was in labor with Blade. She's bitten by Deacon Frost and then dies during the labor. Some vampire enzymes are passed on to Blade, but not all of them. As he grows up, he sort of swores to avenge her by becoming a vampire hunter. Now, because he wasn't turned into a vampire, not actually bitten directly, he has a lot of their powers without having their drawbacks. He can smell supernatural creatures, has a much longer lifespan than your average human, and is immune to the normal vampire bite. And just like many of the heroes on the list, he has superhuman speed, agility, strength, stamina, healing. Some really great healing at the end. At number 2 we have one you really can't argue, and that's Ghost Rider. I know, shiver. The movie was not good at all. I mean, Nick Cage, I'm gonna stop there. We don't need to rehash it. So Ghost Rider started out as Johnny Blaze, at least in the first one. Johnny Blaze is a stunt motorcyclist and had to sell his soul to a devil named Mephisto to save his surrogate father from dying of cancer. It's complicated. Sadly, he ends up dying anyways, doing a wild stunt involving jumping over 22 cars on a motorcycle. Dad, you're a little crazy. Calm down. Later on, Blaze becomes a Ghost Rider and starts exhibiting things like being able to sense when evil is around, his skin turns into hellfire, giving him that amazing effect of his head becoming a flaming skull. He also rides around on a fiery motorcycle that can travel faster than any conventional vehicle. It can defy usual physics by riding on vertical surfaces, it can jump across huge distances, and even drive across water, so he's kind of like motorcycle Jesus. He also wields blasts of hellfire. That is a supernatural flame that burns the soul of a person, but can also be used to burn their physical body as well. He's virtually indestructible, has superhuman strength, and is notoriously hard to injure because, I mean, bullets and knives can just pass right through him. There was a time where a knife went into him and just kind of melted. So, pretty great superpowers overall. Now, different versions can do different things, like hellfire breath, or the ability to produce chains from either his throat or chest, and the ability to travel between incorporeal realms. Pretty stacked demon character. Finally, at number 1 we have Spawn. I have to say, this is one that jumped into my mind right away. I still think about that old movie and I wonder if they're ever gonna remake it. 1997, what a year to be alive. He started life out as Albert Simmons, with a salesman as a father and a devil worshipper as a mother. Interesting combination. He goes through life and becomes a highly capable assassin for a US security group. He gets decades of hand-to-hand combat and martial arts training in a ton of disciplinaries. He also is a great marksman and swordsman already. But then he gets backstabbed and murdered and ends up in hell, where he makes a deal with a demon to see his wife just one more time. However, it means he has to become an undead hellspawn, so when he gets back to Earth, he's missing a lot of his memory, he's badly disfigured, but now he has magic powers. But he's also strapped with a monitor, the clown, aka Violator, just to kinda keep an eye on him, you know? He has different powers over the series, but here are a few. He has superhuman strength, durability, speed. It's also worth noting his living symbiotic costume. While wearing it, it's actually bonded to his central nervous system and it will protect him even if he's unconscious. And it has like skulls and spikes and a shroud and chains, so it's a pretty great whole armored set.
Number 10. Ophis. Ophis was a large, frightening, demonic mutant also belonging to the Nephim. He had an insane level of strength and durability. If Yggdrasil was the dark opposite of Angel, then Ophis was the dark opposite to Wolverine, which is saying something about just how dark and demonic he was, as Logan himself is a pretty dark side. As such, in the battle with X-Men, Ophis ended up torturing a captured Wolverine, but during the destruction of Azazel's castle, he ended up getting an arm free, and well, that was kind of the end of Ophis, cause you know, snicked. You know how it goes. Literally the next panel, just Wolverine. Snicked. He dead. Claws to the head. What a way to go. Number 9. Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil was part of Azazel's army, a member of the Nephim. The Nephim are basically demonic mutants, so expect to maybe see a few more of their numbers on this list, other than Ophis and Yggdrasil. After Azazel and the other Nephim were exiled to the Brimstone Dimension following a feud with the Chearaphim, basically the opposite of the Nephim, angelic mutants, they plotted to one day escape their hellish dimension. They even temporarily succeeded and were fought against by the X-Men. Angel was captured in the fight and given to Yggdrasil to torture, but was saved when Yggdrasil was killed. Yggdrasil, like Angel, also had wings and could fly. He was also superhumanly strong and dexterous. Ooh la la. Number 8. Kiwi Black. Kiwi Black is Nightcrawler's half-brother. He is the son of Azazel and likely an indigenous Polynesian woman from New Zealand, as he is part Maori. He was depowered on M-Day, which is why he takes one of the bottom spots, but when he did have powers, they were pretty neat. He could channel bioenergy and use it to increase his strength, or channel it through other beings via touch to disrupt their powers or cause their organs to malfunction. He could also channel this energy through natural surroundings in order to alter it. For example, smashing craters in the ground, or using his powers to cause rock formations to appear shooting up out of the ground. Originally, Kiwi Black worked along Azazel, helping him to try and free his army from the dimension that they were trapped in and transport them to Earth. However, after surviving a sacrificial ritual, he ended up rebelling and instead allied himself with the X-Men. That's what happens when you find out your dad's trying to use you as a gateway. Dang. Time to join the good guys, I guess. Number 7. SAPNA. SAPNA became, for a time, Magik's sort of protege. Her mutant powers allowed her to absorb and understand any languages she came into contact with, similar to Cypher. The difference was, at the time when SAPNA's powers manifested, she was in limbo. This led her to absorbing all of the magical knowledge in the limbo dimension, which granted her additional demonic abilities. As a result, she became a magic user who could control demons and cast spells. Magik even suspected that SAPNA was capable of reanimating the dead. Unfortunately, we never got to find out, as SAPNA met her demise when the World Eater used her as a host and Magik was forced to kill her, trapping her spirit for a time inside her soul sword. Number 6. Nils Steiger. Steiger is known by the codename of Abyss. Steiger? Stigger? Which one is it? He is also half-brother of Nightcrawler, on his father's side, meaning that he is also the son of Azazel. His powers allow him to unravel his body, which is made of wrappings. Yeah, if you've ever wondered what a mutant mummy would be like, this is pretty much it. He can use his wrappings to defend himself and attack with them, and when wrapped up, his body is made more durable by his wrappings. Like his half-brother, he also shares a link to the Brimstone dimension. In the center of his chest, underneath his wrappings, is a dark void that when revealed acts like a black hole, so he can use it to suck in enemies, transporting and trapping them in the Brimstone dimension for as long as Abyss sees fit. Nils can also absorb fear energy and use it to power himself. Unfortunately, he was depowered during M-Day, then repowered by the Terrigen Mist, but only to be depowered again later. Yeesh. Number 5. Sabertooth. While Sabertooth might not be more powerful than some of the mutants previously listed, he is still alive and still has his powers, albeit he is in exile right now. During the Weapon X series from 2017, Sabertooth found himself tied to the demonic world after he sacrificed himself to save his son Graydon from hell. I know, weird, right? What a weird time to become tied to demons, but let's talk about that. Victor had gone to hell to trade his soul for his son's, and as such he was reverted to a base animalistic state and was set free from the dimension by Marduk, who confessed that he would not enjoy torturing Sabertooth in hell, both while he was not competent enough to understand it because he was all like animalistic, and while he had just earned such torture through a noble deed as opposed to a series of bad ones. Marduk was like, why can't you just be terrible? I want you to be terrible again. So Marduk then allowed him to be resurrected, sending him out into the world once more, but now free of the conscience that we'd seen Sabertooth build throughout the last few arcs he'd had in the comics, trying to redeem himself. Kind of had like a heroic Sabertooth almost coming, but nope, he's gone. So now he's back, he's bad, and he's on a road back to hell. Hence him being a bad guy again. Sad. I kind of miss good guy Sabertooth. Do you guys miss good guy Sabertooth? Probably not. Let me know in the comments. Number 4. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler has all sorts of demonic ties. Firstly, he is the son of Azazel, who had a thing with his biological mother Mystique while she was married to Baron Christian Wagner. When Kurt was being born, Mystique lost momentary control of her powers while in labor, revealing to everyone her true nature. Because of baby Kurt's demonic form and Mystique's reveal of her ability to shapeshift, the two were chased down by an angry mob. During their fight, Mystique lost consciousness and lost baby Kurt in the process. Nightcrawler would go on to be taken in by a Romani sorceress, Margali Sardos. His teleportation powers link him to the Brimstone dimension, which he uses as a stepping stone to transport himself wherever he so chooses with his teleportation powers. The Brimstone dimension basically acts as a through point for Kurt, leaving a puff of smoke behind every time he uses it that smells of burnt brimstone. Bam! That's his teleportation sound. Bam. Number 3. Azazel. Azazel is a very powerful mutant. He even claims to have competed for the title of Satan, battling Mephisto and other demonic beings for it. Azazel mated with humans in an attempt to create offspring that would help him and his army to escape the hell dimension that they were trapped in, using his children as a gateway to bring them through to Earth. He himself could teleport to Earth for periods of time due to his insanely strong teleportation powers. His affair with Mystique, who was married at the time, brought about baby Nightcrawler, and Mystique actually may have been the only Earthling that he ever truly cared for. / maybe even loved. His powers include immortality, teleportation, in fact it has been said that he is one of the most powerful teleporters to ever exist, the ability to physically influence one's will, and the ability to metamorph. Number 2. Madeline Pryor. Madeline Pryor is ranking high on this list because there's a good chance that she could be Omega level. Maddie was the clone of Jean Grey, one of the most powerful mutants that we know of currently. While she doesn't do it often, Pryor actually has the ability to warp reality. She is also virtually immortal, as whenever she is killed, although her physical form ceases to exist, she herself simply reverts to a psionic energy form due to her ties with the Phoenix Force. This is why Nate Grey was able to actually bring her back to life. When it comes to her demonic ties, Madeline is a magic user and sorceress who once made pacts with demons. That's actually how she got those powers, becoming the Goblin Queen. She has also used those ties to summon demonic creatures and get them to do her bidding. Number 1. MAGIK. Illyana Rasputin was kidnapped when she was just a little girl by Belasco and taken to Limbo. While there she was given tons of power by Belasco, but Belasco was also controlling of her and pretty much a big creep the entire time. He put part of her soul into a bloodstone to solidify his control over her. Despite this, eventually MAGIK would train and rise up against him using some of her life force to craft her now famous soul sword and overthrow Belasco, later becoming the new ruler of Limbo. She even made the demon Sim her loyal servant for a while, though being a slippery demon, he would eventually betray her. Unsurprisingly, that's such a Sim thing to do, you know what I mean?
Number 10. ZARATHOS. ZARATHOS started off as most demons do, in hell. He was known for corrupting the Blood, a group of beings responsible for overseeing the benevolent spirits of vengeance. He did this in the classic demon way of promising them more power when he was in fact taking their powers for himself in order to become an even more powerful evil demon. He's all about that upward mobility. When stunt driver Johnny Blaze made a deal with the demon Mephisto, more on him later, Mephisto bonded ZARATHOS to Johnny, making him the Ghost Rider. This partnership grants Ghost Rider a variety of demonic powers, most notably the penance stare, which causes a victim to experience every bit of pain that they have ever caused for all of eternity. While this is scary, the fact that victims of the penance stare usually have it coming makes it a bit less frightening for the average reader, placing ZARATHOS at the bottom of our list. Number 9. ETRIGAN. How to explain the origin of ETRIGAN in a way that won't get this video banned? Well, when a mommy demon and a daddy demon are at war and want to broker a peace, they will copulate on top of the bodies of their fallen soldiers and make a demon baby. Yes, I am totally serious. The demon Etrigan was first summoned to Earth by the wizard Merlin in an attempt to save Camelot from destruction. When that failed, Merlin bound Etrigan to Jason Blood. The two have been a force for both good and evil over the years, but Etrigan's love of causing pain is often barely kept in check by Jason. For example, in Action Comics number 637, Jason and Etrigan are hired to perform an exorcism on a child. They succeed, but Etrigan immediately tries to eat the child, and is only dissuaded when Jason threatens to end his life. Also, Etrigan only speaks in rhyme, which makes everything he does have an even creepier edge to it, like a evil Lin-Manuel Miranda. Number 8. Azazel. Azazel is one of the Dukes of Hell and is the father of Hellboy. Hellboy's mother was a witch named Sarah Hughes who made a deal with the demon in exchange for powers. She later changed her mind and attempted to renege on the deal. In response, Azazel set fire to Sarah's children and informed her that she would give birth to his son. He then put her on a hook and rode off with her on a horse for hell. Sarah would die giving birth to Hellboy, whose father then cut off his hand and replaced it with his trademark right hand of doom. Not exactly Dad of the Year material. Number 7. First of the Fallen. The First of the Fallen was the first being created in the universe, but after falling out with God, he was banished to hell, thus making him the the first of the fallen. When Lucifer decided to give up his throne so that he could travel the world as a mortal, first of the fallen was handed the keys to hell and became Satan. He successfully delayed the birth of a Messiah by infecting John Constantine with demon's blood and tricking him into sleeping with the intended mother of the Messiah. The demon's blood passed to her like mono in a college dorm, and she became unsuitable to carry the Messiah. He is also extremely patient and petty, such as when he spent 20 years messing with a priest, convincing him to take his own life just to mess with Constantine. Number 6. Barbatos. A bit of DC Comics multiverse lore for you. A character named the World Forger uses the hopes and fears of every living creature as the basis for various different universes in the multiverse. The more stable ones get to join the main multiverse, while the unstable ones get destroyed by a dragon named Barbatos. Barbatos eventually tired of just destroying unstable universes and turned on his master, deciding to try and destroy the main multiverse. He scoured the dark multiverse, finding the worst versions of Batman, such as the Batman Who Laughs, and formed a team in hopes of using them to enact his evil plan. Now, I don't know about you, but any creature who can look at the Batman Who Laughs and think, this guy's exactly what I'm looking for, scares the crap out of me. Incidentally, it was revealed that he was the bat that crashed through the window in Wayne Manor that inspired Bruce Wayne to become Batman. Number 5. Dormammu. Ah, Dormammu, the ruler of the dark dimension. After teaming up with his twin sister Umar to murder their parents, Cinnifer, the two left home to travel the multiverse, pursuing a career in murder and destruction, before eventually settling in and taking over the dark dimension. Not one to share power, Dormammu eventually banished his sister and became the sole ruler. Dormammu has been responsible for many awful events, such as the Great Fire of London, and influencing a man into becoming Jack the Ripper in 1888. He was eventually tricked into a bargain with Doctor Strange that made the demon promise to never return to Earth. This has moved Doctor Strange to the top of Dormammu's enemies list and has resulted in the demon sending several of the Doctor's enemies after him, as Strange's death at the hands of a third party will result in their pact coming to a close. Number 4. Trigon. Trigon is a unique demon on this list, as he is just as much an alien as he is a demon. He was a regular, evil ruler of a planet until one day a group of aliens known as the Divine showed up, hoping to use something called the Great Heart of Darkness to eat his soul and cleanse the planet of evil. This backfired as Trigon absorbed the heart and gained the power of 100 galaxies worth of collected evils. It was at this point that the Divine revealed they were not a boy band as their name suggested, but were in fact his parents. This family reunion was cut short when Trigon skinned them and wore them like coats. He would go on to have many sons whose mothers he would kill, and one daughter, Raven. Raven would not end up going into the family business, but would instead end up joining the Teen Titans and becoming Trigon's greatest enemy. Number 3. Agony and Ecstasy. As we get near the top of the list, we have to ask the question, what are demons afraid of? The answer is the co-joined twin demons Agony and Ecstasy. Their job is to enforce the laws of hell by punishing any demons who break the rules or are defeated by humans more than 3 times. We rarely see them in action, but the fact that even the most renowned demons fear being in their clutches helps put them near the top of the list. Also, I'm giving them a lot of credit for being the most visually terrifying demons on this list. Considering how many of these demons look exactly the same, these two's distinctive look gets them a lot of mileage in my book. Number 2. Mephisto. Demons are usually written as beings from hell who try and take over human souls to bring them back to hell. It's scary, but it's what they do. That's what I find so creepy about Mephisto. Mephisto is the ruler of a pocket dimension that he calls hell. But to be clear, it is not the hell featured in the Bible. He also looks like the devil, but he is not Lucifer. Mephisto is using humanity's belief in the devil to gain power from their belief, like a really intense cosplayer. Mephisto has tangled with various heroes in the Marvel Universe over the years, perhaps most infamously in Amazing Spider-Man number 545, when he made a deal with Peter Parker to save his Aunt May from certain death at the cost of his marriage to Mary Jane. Mephisto is also known for being rumored to show up in MCU projects and then not making an appearance. Number 1. Chthon. The Earth's first black magician is scary less for the things he has done than for the things he has created. Chthon was the writer of the infamous Darkhold, a book of evil spells also known as the Shiatra Book of the Damned, or the Book of Sins. He is also responsible for the creation of harpies and goblins, the real kind, not the glider-riding pumpkin bomb kind. His spells in the Darkhold were used to create the first vampires and the first werewolves, making him responsible for both the Twilight franchise and Morbius. One of his evil plans involved granting a young Wanda Maximoff the ability to use chaos magic, making him also indirectly responsible for every messed up awful thing ever done by the Scarlet Witch, except for her hooking up with her brother Quicksilver in the Ultimate Universe in Ultimates 3 issue number 1. The blame for that rests purely on Jeff Loeb's shoulders.
Starting us off in at number 10, ZARATHOS. ZARATHOS is a demonic being who tortures and devours souls. What a pastime. He's generally an antagonist for Ghost Rider in Marvel's comics. Now, the demon first appeared in 1972's Marvel Spotlight issue 5, and he's terrifyingly powerful. He's virtually immortal and has superhuman strength, a healing factor, and elemental powers that allow him to wield, control, and project hellfire from his hands. The more souls he consumes, the more powerful he becomes. Now, Mephisto fought against ZARATHOS to put an end to his reign of terror, making him need to bond with a human host in order to collect souls. Hence why the demon is bonded to Ghost Rider. Speaking of, that brings us to our next number. Up next at 9, Mephisto. Mephisto is Marvel's Satan equivalent, a demon who was based off of Mephistopheles of FAUST legend. First appearing in 1968's Silver Surfer issue 3, Mephisto has long been a mainstay in Marvel's demonic world. He's a trickster and extremely powerful immortal demonic entity who can manipulate the forces of magic in order to give him a range of abilities, which include superhuman strength, the ability to shapeshift and shift size, project illusions, manipulate memories, alter time, and avoid injury. If his physical form is destroyed, he can regenerate and reform in his own realm and then return. He acquires souls but cannot subjugate the will of another being without that being's permission, hence his infatuation with making pacts and deals. Up next, number 8, Blackheart. Blackheart was actually created by our previous number, Mephisto. This character first appeared in Daredevil issue 270 in 1989. He is a son that Mephisto created from the energy of accumulated evil. That sounds fun. Blackheart is highly intelligent, can manipulate energy, warp reality, shapeshift, is telepathic and telekinetic, has an accelerated healing factor, magical and mystical powers, and superhuman physical attributes. He also has no soul, and can call forward armies from hell. Moving on to number 7, Set. Set is an elder god, one who got a little greedy in the Marvel Universe. Now, Set had realized that he could become the most powerful of all elder gods by devouring other gods, and therefore decided to murder his fellow brethren in an attempt to harness their power for himself. In doing so, he became the first ever murderer on Earth. The more he murdered and other gods who followed suit murdered, the more they would degenerate into demons, hence why Set is now a demon. He and his brother Shiton were the worst for this and degenerated into ghastly demonic entities. Set's got a whole lot of snake heads. If you don't like snakes, not the demon for you. Although why you would be choosing a demon for you is a question of its own. Moving on to number 6, a DC character finally, NEKRON. NEKRON is creepy as f***. Created in 1981, he is a DC character who first appeared in Tales of the Green Lantern Corps issue 2. NEKRON draws power from souls and commands all of the souls and spirits of individuals who had died. Like, anyone who has died. So yeah, kind of explains the whole scary aesthetic, eh? Anyway, the power he draws from allows him to pull off a lot of horrifyingly nifty tricks, including darkness manipulation, dark energy manipulation, necromancy of course, godly strength, invulnerability. He has a fatal touch, which is exactly what the name implies. He can manipulate souls, energy, matter, and dimensions. He is telepathic, can warp reality, alter his own size, project dark lightning, and of course, he's immortal. In at 5, Dormammu. The longtime foe of Doctor Strange, Dormammu is a demon that debuted back in the Silver Age in Marvel's panels in Strange Tales issue 126 in 1964. Created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, the character is known as the Lord of Chaos and the Great Enigma, and is considered one of the most powerful mystical entities within the Marvel Universe. Now, he's a threat to the life of the universe itself, and is an interdimensional demon composed of mystical energy that can be used to achieve pretty much whatever effect he desires. He can create his own demon lords, and he has been known to be capable of having a universal, even multiversal scale of influence. He lives in the dark dimension where he is stronger thanks to the empowerment of his worshippers and followers. Up next at number 4, Barbatos. Barbatos is the second most recent character on this list in terms of creation. Barbatos was introduced to us during the Dark Knight's Metal event in 2017, in which Batman had accidentally discovered that a dark multiverse lies beneath the regular multiverse. The more he investigated, the more he opened up the gates between the multiverses accidentally, in which this sinister demon decided to send evil alternate versions of Batman over into the regular multiverse, with the intention of invading it and turning it dark. Barbatos is known as the Bat God, created by the World Forger to consume universes that had decayed. Barbatos would kill his creator out of the lust for destruction, and because he was no longer doing his designated job, unstable worlds just kinda stuck around for much longer than they should have, becoming part of this dark multiverse. Moving on to number 3, Shuma-Gorath. Shuma-Gorath is an ancient evil, arguably the most powerful ancient demon to ever exist in the Marvel Universe. Mephisto and Dormammu both claim to be inferiors to Shuma-Gorath, and that kinda speaks volumes, doesn't it? So, who is this big ol' spiky tentacled eye? Well, sometimes referred to as the Lord of Chaos, this demonic entity can manipulate reality, project energy, shapeshift, levitate, teleport, has vast mystical powers, and of course, is immortal. Can't be on this list unless you're an immortal, right? In the early days of Earth's history, Shuma-Gorath demanded human sacrifice before being banished by a time-traveling sorcerer. It would try to return to Earth via the mind of the Ancient One, which caused Doctor Strange to have to kill the Ancient One in order to prevent this from happening. Up next in our number 2 spot, Null. Null is the symbiote god. Created in 2018 in Venom issue 3, Null is an ancient evil deity who created the Clintar race, and a weapon known as the All-Black, the Necrosword. Null, who lived deep within the void in which it drifted ceaselessly, was intruded upon by the Celestials and the light of creation that spoiled its kingdom of darkness. So it sought out revenge, murdering Celestials, including the one whose severed head became nowhere. Anyway, Null has superhuman strength, speed, is immortal, is capable of umberkinesis, can create symbiotes and dominate them, can manipulate dark matter, generate matter, manipulate said matter, has a healing factor, can shapeshift, and is greatly skilled in hand-to-hand combat. The last one just kind of feels like a cherry on top, doesn't it? And finally, last but not least, in at number 1, Chthon. Chthon is some scary Previously an elder god, Chthon has degenerated into a demon, all thanks to his insatiable greed for power and murdering other gods. Don't you just hate it when you degenerate into a demon because you've just been murdering people? I know I do. Anyway, Chthon has been kicking around the Marvel Universe for billions and billions of years. He's got some terrifying powers. The ability to manipulate reality, use dark and chaos magic in which he has an unimaginable mystical power, which allows him to warp, manipulate and reconstruct the very fabric of existence and reality to his whims. He has created his own dimension in which he controls every aspect of its reality. He's telepathic. He can take over a mortal's body as a host on Earth, although he can't transfer his totality of power into said body, thank God. It's too much for that physical form to contain. Oh, and of course, he also has a genius level intellect.